It's Two on the Aisle with me, Charles Gross, and Leslie Hoban Blake. Tonight reviews of A Midsummer Night's Dream, Marvin's Room, 1984, A Real Boy, Summer Shorts 2017, and Broadway Bound Theater Festival. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Two on the Aisle. And good evening, everyone. I'm Charles Gross.
And I'm Leslie Hoban Blake.
Yes, you would have to be.
I would be.
Yes. All right. Well, we have a lot to do, so we're going to get through with it. Well, no one kills Donald Trump in this play. But it is by far the best production of A Midsummer Night's Dream I have ever seen. It has a sliding pond. It has a beautiful band that's mostly Motown. And it has Annalee Ashford, who is in excellent, excellent form. This is, of course, the Shakespeare play where everybody goes into the woods because. And there's...
And I missed it, and it had Danny Burstein, and I missed
Danny
everybody.
Burstein, who literally makes an ass of himself in the play. But he brought both the beard and the hat from Fiddler on the Roof. And you also have Felicia Rashad. Felicia Rashad, excuse me. And just such a wonderful cast, such a wonderful production, choreographed by Chase Brock and directed by Leah DeBessing. Yes. And I had just a wonderful time with it, just so freewheeling, so enjoyable. Annalee Ashford, she plays a woman who is in love with a man who is betrothed to another woman, and then there's a woman who's betrothed to the same man, but she doesn't want him. And then a couple of...
The famous thing about this is that everybody gets mixed up in the woods, and Puck comes along and puts the wrong juice in the wrong person's eyes.
Well, these are a bunch of miscast spells. So suddenly everybody's after Annalee Ashford.
And who plays Helena in this.
Right. And then there's Hermia, who is Shalita Grant, who has a guy, then she doesn't have a guy, then she does have a guy. You know, she's running off because her father wants her to marry someone. She doesn't want to marry him, but Annalee Ashford does.
And will you rent our ancient love asunder to join with men in scorning your poor friend? It is not friendly! 'Tis not maidenly.
I am amazed at your words, but I scorn you not. It seems that you scorn me.
Have you not said Lysanderus in scorn to follow me and praise my eyes and face, and made your other love Demetrius, who even but now did spurn me with his foot to call me goddess, nymph, divine, and rare, precious, celestial? Wherefore speaks he this to her he hates, and wherefore doth Lysander deny your love so rich within his soul to tender me forsooth affection, but by your setting on, by your consent, what though I be not so in grace as you, so hung upon with love, so fortunate, but miserable most to love unlove.
The sliding pond isn't used all that much, but the band is, and they have an amazing singer, or they had, and, you know, the production of Julius Caesar got all the publicity because there was a quote-unquote Trump-like character. Frankly, how shall I say it? Yes, much ado over nothing with that one, and it wasn't even that great a production. It was average at best.
This you really like?
This I really liked.
How many playbills
I would give this 4 playbills.
Wow.
And sorry that it had to end so quickly.
But there you go.
Okay. But Marvin's Room is still playing?
I wasn't sorry that it... Well, you know, Marvin's Room is an anomaly. Marvin's Room, even when it came out, Marvin's Room came out at just after the height of the AIDS crisis, and it's a play about dying. It's a play about death and dying, and there's a very selfless woman in the play who takes care of everybody else in the play, and she takes care of her father, and she takes care of her aunt, and then she finds out that she's going to die herself, and so
she finds out she's sick.
Well, she finds out she's sick, but she's got a terminal illness. And yet it's funny, and it's funny in that dark way that people have of laughing at inappropriate things. It has a lovely cast: Lily Taylor, Celia Weston, Janine Garofalo, who is just divine, and but you know, overall, it's this comedy about dying, and I find it hard to put the two together. You know, they did the best job they could with it. I think they did a better job with it than the movie. But in any case, I mean, I really hate to say negative things about it. because there's nothing intrinsically wrong with it. It's the subject matter.
Not a heck of a lot right with it.
Well, it's the subject matter. I find it very hard to. I mean, the production itself was, a very well done production, good casting. I had difficulty. I've always had difficulty with this play.
Well, this was the first time I had seen it. I didn't know what to expect.
And
enjoyable, but I think you pretty much summed it up.
Oh,
There's
okay.
not much I can add to that.
All right. Well, thank you. Usually you do.
I know.
Why does your playbill?
How would you rate
the difference
it? Yes,
between our playbills?
Well,
obviously, I saw it just before Pride Month, evidently. So you got the Pride one with all the color, and I got the plain black and white yellow one. So there we go. Okay. Well, and then we
went to see 1984. Now, this is, of course, based on the novel of the same name, George Orwell, written well before 1984, but surprisingly accurate in what the type of technology that they have. You can be watched every minute by the government, and well, now you actually can be watched every minute, but it's not necessarily by the government. It's more likely Google has a lot more interest in you than the government does.
Or your Samsung phone, or your microwave, or
or whatever. But here you have the totalitarian states, based on the old Soviet Union, or perhaps the aspiring Soviet Union, and it focuses on a man and a woman who are trying to overthrow this government.
Well, one of the things, love is banned. There is no mixing of the sexes, and love is banned.
Well, except for procreation.
Yes, but that's done a test tube kind of thing. I mean, it's not done with men and women. That's the whole idea.
I believe it is.
I don't think so. But in any case, the way they start is not to overthrow the government. They simply fall in love with each other, and then it turns out that she's got a larger agenda than that, and that's part of the overthrow.
Right, well, he also finds himself a diary.
Right.
And
but the way this play was put together,
keeping notes, keeping history, because history has changed it. And ironically, this character Winston, played very well by Tom Sturridge, and the girl was played by Olivia Wilde, is in the office of misinformation, for lack of a better word.
Right.
It's his job to change things. So one day we're at war with England. We've always been at war with England. Next day we're at war with France. We've always been at war with France. England has always been our ally.
Yeah.
And all the points, it's been like 30 years since I've read the book, but all the points that I remember are included in the play. And the staging is phenomenal. I mean, I
didn't think so.
Really?
I was very disappointed, given the fact that we have such an ability to put technology on the stage, that we can do anything we want to these days.
Right.
They went very old-fashioned. They put it into a room. They had some sound, some light things, but mostly they went back and forth in time.
Well, when they were in the room,
yes,
they were broadcasting this room that supposedly was private. They were broadcasting that scene on a big television screen.
Yeah, I understand that, but that's minor in terms of what we're able to do. They put it almost as if it was in the time that it was written, rather than in the time that it's trying to be about.
You could not have done that in the time. You couldn't have had a TV that screen. You couldn't have used the.
Okay, you know what I wanted to see? Remember when they did it must have been an iPhone commercial that was based on the idea of everybody going in one direction and somebody going in the other direction and breaking
You mean
loose.
the original Macintosh computer?
Whatever it was based on the concept of 1984. It was everybody mechanized and whatnot.
And someone comes with a hammer and breaks the screen.
Yes, exactly. I wanted to see that. I wanted to see that kind of gigantic effect that could have been done on stage now, that couldn't have been done even 10 years ago, and I didn't see that. I saw it all being done quietly, and I saw grand guignol, fake blood, and fake scariness, and somehow it just stayed fake to me, and I'm sorry. I mean, I wish I could have liked it more.
It was pretty real to me. This was directed by Robert Ickey and Duncan McMillan. Also adapted by the two of them.
As well, yeah.
I thought it was brilliantly done.
Okay.
It was hard. It was cold. It got the point of 1984, and they've added an interesting ending that.
Well, we're not going to give that away.
I won't give it away, but the way it's handled, very good, because you think, well, maybe things are going to change, but maybe not.
Yeah.
So.
Well, the only thing is, I mean, if you listen to, you're going to love me for saying this, but if you listen to Mr. Trump, reading the parts of his speeches in Arizona just now that he wanted people to hear after we all listened to the actual speeches, and he leaves out parts. That's that's the scary 1984 that I didn't see in this play.
Oh,
So-
I'm sorry. I thought it was plenty scared. And the interesting thing is, I didn't think at all of Donald
You
Trump.
didn't.
No.
Goodness gracious me, how could you not?
You
Okay.
know.
So what would you
Seriously?
give it?
I would give it 4 playbills.
I would give it 2.75. That's about where I was with it. Sorry.
All
I
right.
would have loved to have done more than that. But so the next thing that we saw, and we saw it together, was Lincoln Center's Pipeline,
Yes.
which is really interesting. It was down in the New House, and it's a play about something that goes on. It's about a mother and a son,
And the father.
and the father. Okay, but it's a black couple and their son,
Yes.
and the son is in trouble at school, and
A fancy boarding school.
and he's in a fancy boarding school because both parents are trying very hard to give him all the things that they didn't have, and they want him to get the right start in life. So everybody's trying to do the right thing, it seems, except the boy, except that the young man feels that the teacher is against him and feels that the teacher is singling him out, and whenever they talk
and
about
decides to assault the teacher.
yes, true, but his rationale is, and I'm not saying he's right, but I'm saying his rationale is that the guy has it in for him, and whenever he talks about black crime, he looks at the boy. So the kid has it's a form of bullying. A teacher has that kind of thing, especially in a school where he's one of the only black students.
Right.
So it's really interesting because it does make you think.
Right. And I think it's also important to mention that the mother is a teacher, in an inner city school.
In the school that she doesn't want her son to go to.
Yeah.
That son of yours needs a swift kick in the ass.
Yeah, no, that's not what he needs, Lori.
I remember when the parents used to give us permission to spank their kids in class. You old enough to remember that?
We teach teenagers.
Well, especially the teenagers.
I don't think I remember that.
That was the best, I'm telling you.
So, and having taught in an inner city school myself, I can understand why. And that's what it's about. I mean, it's about how do you deal with the prejudice, whether real or imagined, that the boy is facing, the young man is facing, and as a mother, how do you protect your child? And did she do the right thing? Did she do the wrong thing? And does it matter? Would it have been any different?
Hard to say, but the boy, I think this is not his first incident, so you have to wonder. And then the father shows up, and the parents are divorced. It is the mother's fault. She apparently had cheated on him, although they have not told the boy that.
Yeah.
And there's this big father and son discussion, and I'm thinking, where have I seen this before? Where you're saying, you're hashing out what is the father's responsibility. And I think, oh yes, Fences, where it was done a lot better.
But of course, it was a different class of people too. The father comes in a business suit and a tie, and carries a briefcase and that kind of thing.
Right, and you're wondering, yes, the boy does not see him as often.
Right.
But the parents are divorced.
Right.
That's why, and of course, he's away at boarding school. And then do you write the check that you send to the school every month, or do you just have it done from the bank? And apparently, that makes a difference.
Well,
So
yes,
that's-
it does. I mean,
Oh,
yes.
no,
if
it
you, well,
doesn't.
come on. If you want to be involved in your son's life, you're involved. If you don't want to be involved, you write a check. If you have the wherewithal
It
to
seems
write
to
it.
me that when his son is in trouble,
Okay.
the father is there, so he is very
But
much
this
involved.
is what I like about this play: is it makes you think, and it makes you take a side, and it makes you want to argue out the different.
Right.
And so, in that
It does
sense,
get you to think, yes,
it gets
it is
you.
a
It gets you
success.
going. So, in
Strictly
that sense,
as a
it has-
theatrical piece,
maybe not. Thought
Yeah.
it was very well staged. I thought the way they went from the schoolroom to other parts of the thing
Yes.
went very well. And I thought that the actress who played the teacher, whom we saw in
I think that's
Jitney,
Karen Pittman.
Karen Pittman, whom we saw in Jitney as well, was just wonderful.
Yes.
Really, because she's on edge and everything is so a very lovely job of that,
Right.
and a lovely
This is
job
written
of-
by Dominique Morceau.
Morceau.
Excuse me.
And-
And you can say who directed it.
And Liana Blaine Cruz,
Very
and whom
good.
I adored from her direction of The Last Black Man, which you didn't care for that
I
much.
did not at all.
But the Suzanne Laurie Parks play.
This
So
I
I would
s- I
like
cer-
to give it, if I may, I would like to give it
what-
4.5. I really think that it was
Really?
I think it's an important play in the sense of what it opens up. I think it's
I
opening
think
up.
important plays have to be entertaining.
Okay.
So
But
I
I
would
think
give it
on-
between
overall,
three-
between the performances, the staging, what it was about,
I would say 3.5.
Okay, well, that's what makes horse races.
Yes. Well, here's an interesting. It
the-
definitely got us to talk.
This play.
Yes, this is a real boy. And we kind of thought this would be like a reverse Pinocchio or something
Well, that's
like
how
that.
they described it. They said a real boy is adopted by two puppets. That was the
Well,
so that was
two
the tagline.
marionettes.
Two marionettes.
And he's in a school, and the whole problem starts when the teacher finds out that he's only allowed to color in black and white.
Well, he only chooses to color in black and white.
He's only allowed.
Well, she doesn't know that. She
color.
finds out by going to his house that that's all they have. And is
And
there
then the
anything
parents
wrong
walk
with that?
in, and they are marionettes, and the father is hoping that the boy will turn into a marionette. Now,
Well, the boy starts to sprout strings.
Right.
Is what happens, you know,
Right.
and so the mother is concerned about that, and the father is happy about
very
it.
much so.
And
And they have a fear of scissors because
Yes.
they're afraid their strings are going to be cut. Although, when that actually does happen, it does not cause the panic. Now, I thought, all right, maybe this is some gay or transgender metaphor here.
you did?
I assume that was what the playwright was
Maybe,
getting
you
at,
might be
because he
right.
specifically said that the parents, even though the marionettes
Uh-huh.
are male and female, that the parents should be paid like a same-sex couple or a different racial couple, which in this case they were. This is by Stephen Kaplan. The problem is this play
Oh,
was
you read the script, so that's why
I looked
you know that.
yeah I looked
Yes,
at the
okay.
yeah, and
But-
it was in no way, shape, or form ready to be produced. The plot makes no sense. The staging was mediocre. The puppetry, I ended up looking at the puppeteers at more time. There was nothing about this play that
Except
I
the
thought
concept.
was ready.
I thought the concept, that one-liner really caught my eye, and I don't know what I would have done.
Yes,
with
you
it,
have
but
you have a concept, or at least they had a concept, but it's not there on stage.
not sufficiently, not fully. I think it's not. It never becomes more than a concept.
Well, you don't
That's
really
the
know
problem.
what it is. Okay, he's a boy being raised by marionettes. So what?
Well,
and it goes-
I mean,
and
that
it
that in and
goes-
of itself would be a pretty big deal, except if it
You
were-
know, and then why are they marionettes? Why do they like
Right.
having their strings pulled? And we see what happens when strings are cut. And and again, I'm trying, where was he going with this? What did he want to say? I have no idea.
Well, he didn't say it for us. I don't
He
think.
didn't
'Cause
say,
I
I
agree
don't think he
with you
said it
that I
for
didn't.
anybody. And
Well,
I would give this
Okay.
one playbill.
Oh, that's so harsh.
Well, and
I can't go much higher than that. I'd give it 1.5 just because I'm nice.
Okay. Oh.
But
well,
at the same theater,
Someone wants to be loved.
at the same theater,
At the same theater.
I went to both A and B of the summer shorts,
Mm-hmm.
which we go to see, and they have become really slick. They used to be kind of like summer stock,
Right.
and now they're like little one-act Broadway shows, and they have.
Were they Broadway quality this year?
Neil LaBute is always one of
Because
the
this year
people.
we didn't have the Fringe Festival, so this is kind of a.
The Fringe Festival is coming, though. It's in a different format. It's coming. I got a note
I think
about that.
next year, though.
I said it's coming. I didn't
Yes.
say when. What I liked in particular was I liked one play in Evening A. I will name the playwrights really quickly. Alan Zweibel, Melissa Rose, and Graham Moore were the playwrights in the first evening of A, and Neil LaBute, Chris Craigenday, and Lindsay Kraft and Andrew Leeds in the second evening. There's a play in the first evening called Acolyte by Graham Moore that was itself, even though it was almost a half an hour one-act play, it could have been a full evening. It was about Ayn Rand and Peter Brandon, who was her acolyte in real life, and Ayn Rand's husband and Peter Brandon's wife, and just an amazing, amazing compilation of. If you've ever watched that wonderful movie based on Ayn Rand's The Fountainhead with Gary Cooper and Patricia Neal,
I have not.
anyway, you get all of Ayn Rand's philosophy in this play.
Who is
You
this?
Ayn Rand.
Ayn Rand?
Ayn Rand, The Fountainhead. Ayn Rand was the individualist. She. Oh my goodness! All right.
I'm not familiar with her.
Well, she's probably Steve Bannon's muse. Let's put it that way. The me, I, not us, not group, no socialism, all for the individual. In a nutshell, that's about as small a nutshell as I can put it. But in any case, this is about the idea of sitting right there over drinks. They make an arrangement whereby Peter can have an affair with Ein, even and not affect anybody's marriage, and the husband and wife are going like, and they're explaining why it's only logical that this would be the only right thing to do in this particular case, and they were together for years. And
Who was?
Ayn Rand and Brandon, and then I say Peter, it's Nathaniel Brandon. Sorry, my mistake. It's Nathaniel Brandon. And then they broke up, and then he went off and did his own. And because she lived way into the 70s. I saw her at school when I was at school. Amazing people. It was just my favorite play of the evening.
Okay.
I give props to doing it every year. I think it's wonderful to let people dust off the short plays that they have, But that was my favorite one of the whole season.
Okay.
And I would give the whole evening, the 2 evenings, I always give them, I give them all B pluses. I mean, I don't know how you do that.
What was in the second evening? Was there anything you'd like to mention about the second evening?
Yeah, it wasn't. There was nothing in the second evening that came anywhere near the quality of that one. The Neil Dubuque play was about. I could tell you what each one was about, but nothing came close to the. This was 4 people. It had a full set. It had a full thing going, and you really got the sense of a real play going on as opposed to just a snippet of something.
Well, I also went to a festival. It's called Broadway Bound Theater Festival, and I got to see one play called Small Town Confessions. Now,
by someone we know very well, Phil Jeffrey Bond.
Yes. And this had a very some cast members who I love, Sally Mays, Alice Ripley, in it, and they basically play characters in a small town. And they all have their monologues.
Like Spoon River Anthology kind of thing? Or?
Sort of. But in some cases, their lives interact, which is hardly unusual. Like Sally Mays is JoBeth Maybelline, who is appropriately the proprietor of a nail salon. And you have Sharon McKnight as Doris Kitteridge. She is the...
Sharon McKnight is one of the all-time great cabaret singers. I love her.
Well, she does not sing here, I'm sorry. She plays the town lady. I mean, she's married to the doctor, and
You're kidding. She was Dolly Parton. She was real down. Wow, I'm amazed. Okay.
Well, she does have a
actress.
past, and she and Sally Mae's characters were friends until they weren't. Until McKnight's character kind of decided, I'm going to be the uptown. I'm going to be the power lady. I'm going to be the one everybody comes to, and she is indeed. She lives in this beautiful big house, etc. But she has kind of lost any connection. There is the one thing I found a little confusing was Alice Ripley. She's getting married, I think, to the Prince of Darkness. She basically her character has
for real,
lived,
or
has
just somebody in the town who's not
well,
good?
that's the thing that I didn't quite understand. Okay. That was the one part of the play I didn't quite understand. Is she dead? She appears to be. She says she's lived and died several times. And how that fits in with the rest of the play. I mean, even if the characters don't talk about the other characters, there's a connection to the town. And much as I love Alice Ripley, I didn't quite understand what her character was doing there.
Who directed this?
Stephen Nakami. The highlight of the show is Daisy Egan, who you may remember from The Secret Garden.
I interviewed Daisy. I love her.
She's all grown up,
yeah.
And she's an aspiring actress. She leaves the town, and she goes to Disney. She's working in Disney World as Belle.
Oh my goodness!
And she is chosen to do the to narrate. You know, when you come to Disney World, here, you know, and they show her in all the, and she's on the TV screen in all the hotels, and she is sort of famous. You know, this is her 15 minutes of fame. And then, you know, she's doing sort of appearances occasionally. Unfortunately, she lets it go to her head, and ultimately they let her go and they replace her with somebody else, and she's back in the town.
These plays are, it says Broadway bound. Are these Broadway tryouts? Do you think this is a Broadway level
play? I don't think this is something that we would
see
on Broadway. I think maybe we would see it off Broadway, but I don't think this...
Well, because it only got 3 performances, right?
So, yes.
I desperately wanted to go. I wasn't feeling well. I'm sorry. So what would you give it?
I guess I would give it 3.5 playbills.
And you think Jeffrey did a good job? I mean, since it's out of context. I know him as a promoter and as a director. I did not know him as a writer.
I think I had a very nice time with this.
Okay.
And I enjoyed it. It's different. It kind of reminds me of a play called Greater Tuna.
Yeah,
but then
I
you
remember
had
that.
2 actors playing a whole bunch.
Right.
Here, the actors only play one character, even though some of these and they never interact. but the characters do talk about each other. Again, notably Sally Mays and the Sharon McKnight character, who
Well,
were
I
friends.
think it's amazing because what he has done with the casting of this is he called on so many of the cabaret people that he worked with in the world of cabaret, who are also actors. I mean, you know, but he put them all together. I wish I had seen it just for that. I would have liked to.
This week we lost
Oh,
someone who only was on Broadway once, but when he tried to get to Broadway the first time, it was one of the biggest theater stories in the history of theater. I'm talking about Jerry Lewis. Jerry Lewis, I think, in the late 70s, early 80s, was doing a revival of Hell's A-Poppin' with Lynn Redgrave. Alexander Cohn was producing. And this was supposed to be the Broadway event. In fact, Fred Silverman at NBC was going to broadcast the first act of it.
wow.
So it was a really big thing. And then when for whatever reason, apparently Lewis would always wanted to be on Broadway, was becoming very hard to work with. He wouldn't rehearse with Lynn Redgrave, and he kept.
He was notoriously hard to work
He
with.
was.
Yeah.
I mean, he was very talented. He did some amazing work, but he was notoriously hard. And Cohn ended up shutting the whole thing down.
Sometimes that
And there
happens.
was a resulting court. And Cohn, in his later years, was doing a one-man show. He
I remember,
referenced it,
yeah.
but he could not talk about it.
Right.
Lewis could not. I'm hoping that one of them has written
Has
about it,
left
you know,
it,
open
yeah.
it out, and maybe we'll find out what actually
Well, we
happened.
did see him in Damn Yankees.
Yes,
years
he
later.
finally made it, and where apparently
was
a
still
lot,
very difficult.
lot more. Well, I heard he was a lot more amiable
but
because he
but
did
still
tour in it.
difficult.
And this was with Charlotte D'Ambrose, and this was a revised version of Damn Yankees, and he played the devil.
Right.
And I had seen it with the original cast, and I had liked it. I had seen it with this cast. I might have liked it even more. I think it was Charlotte D'Ambrose was playing the Gwen
was,
Verdon
yeah.
role, and I liked her actually even better than Bebe Neuwirth, who I had enjoyed. Jerry Lewis was perfect in the role, in that there was just enough Jerry Lewis to satisfy the fans, but he stuck with the script enough so that he didn't, you know, so that it didn't overwhelm the show. And there were certain things like he'd say "lady" at one point, or he'd yell "I hate charity," and then it takes you a minute to, oh yeah, Jerry Lewis, right, okay.
But you know, it's interesting because we also lost someone who had a tangential connection, and that was Dick Gregory, who was a performer of great note, a comedian and writer. But he also, Joe Morton just did a one-man show of his at the West Side, based on his writings. And the fact that they were so still apt, politically sound, is sad, given the state of our country. And they passed away at the same time. He didn't make it quite as long as Lewis was 90-something.
91, I think.
And Dick Gregory only made it into his 80s. But they both had a tremendous influence on the world of comedy, each of them in their own way.
Certainly.
So
and
they will be
obviously
missed.
on the world of theater.
Yeah.
And that is our show for this evening. So when you go to the theater, look for Leslie and me, us too.
On the aisle.